And I don't know if anyone's looked at the sheet and seen this, but Adam does not pick his prospects well.
The question is, does Max make the playoffs if he doesn't sell?
Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the first and hopefully last episode of the Fuck the Nats podcast.
That's the thing, is like when you're me and like you know that you're a fucking idiot, stick with Christian Vasquez and he will lead my team in steals again.
The memories that come to the surface most clearly are me sorting my baseball cards one way one night and then completely redoing them the next night.
Actually, I'm going to reframe this. JD, why don't you start by talking about Dylan Beavers?
Apologies, I couldn't hear your question because the audio went out.
Okay, we're live. Hello and welcome in, everybody. This is we've done a couple podcasts now to open the season a little bit, but this is the one. We're going to have this. This is part one of our 2024 season preview series. We're going to do another one in a couple days with a Conference 2 member joining us. We have Bean, he's Conference 2 as well, but our special guest today is Adam, being the, we could call him the other commissioner of Conference 1. We could also call him like the reigning champion of Conference 1.
Both work.
And on the other end, when we do the part 2 of this and we talk about Conference 2, we'll have our commissioner representative and finalist of Conference 2 last year, John Duong, join us. So look for that in a couple days. But right now we are talking about Conference 1, and I'm hoping you guys can all see what I'm sharing on my screen. I've checked with Adam and Ben here, and they're able to see. So hoping this works for everyone at home. But we're going to be going through the season preview today, and we're not going to kind of be adhering exactly to what you're seeing on the screen. This is just going to help guide our conversation a little bit. But let's kick things off with talking about our reigning champion and our guest right now, Adam. Adam, how are you feeling coming off the championship season, and what can we expect for 2024?
This is fun, I'd like to be the defending champion more often. It's a funny thing where I sort of got in a groove down the stretch last year. And obviously in the playoffs to the point that I don't really see myself losing ever again, which is a very scary and stupid thing to think. But it's going to be one of those, like, if I lose, like it really hurts now. Like, it hurt before, but it's not going to be like, it's Jack. Like, I lose to Jack. Like, the fact that, like, that's no longer a thing in my head is dangerous and scary and stupid, given my, history of elbows and children and miscellaneous other,
So one way to put
things, right? Things that could get you to not play baseball ever again. But I'm excited with what the off season has been or not been, and it should be a good year. It's not a ton of competition in the division.
All
We'll see
right.
everyone
We're
in the
not
playoffs.
here to stroke Adam's ego about winning. All right, we're here to do a season preview. We don't need all that. Come on now. I can't do it for myself either. Drew's certainly not going to do it for him. So, Drew, tell us what we're looking at here.
By the way, and maybe I'll cut this out, but I probably won't. It doesn't look like Ben's voice is procking. I can hear him, so I'm hoping everyone at home can hear him. We're going to have a big problem if we can't. I'm going to go ahead and actually pause this, and we'll be right back. Okay, I think we figured out whatever was going on. I don't actually think there was an issue. I blame Riverside. It was endorsed by Hillary. I make no promises as to the actual quality of this platform.
Of course not.
It's going on a public YouTube page, right? Okay, so we just got Adam talking about his 2024 season. His 2023 season. Ben, you want to kind of react to what Adam was just talking about? Because you were making some ugly faces over there.
Well, listen, obviously he's the holder of the belt. Can we get a live look at the belt? Is it with you?
Yeah, 1 second.
All right. Well, while
I
he's
should have
getting the
worn it.
belt,
I don't
I'll
know why I
explain.
didn't do that.
I know that was a really good idea.
Ugh.
But
Sorry.
the whole
Let me
thing is, we get you're a champion. We understand the belt. It's beautiful. It's impressive. Understand all that.
I'm going to tap it every time that you say something that slanders about my team that I disagree with and is clearly refuted by me.
I
holding
don't
this belt.
think your team is bad. If you could scroll down to the comments for me.
Okay, we can.
Because I think there were a few comments that, again, I think what I said in my comment on all of these is the second comment, so I don't care who knows it. But I just think that, obviously you had a championship team, but I think you're a few injuries away and a few guys getting older and declining from trouble.
Aren't
I don't
we
think
all?
you're there yet. No, we are. We are. But that's the only thing I can bring against your team. Otherwise, yes, you're the reigning champion. You're going to clearly win this division. I don't think anyone is trying to refute that. I just don't think we need to have a 10-minute circle jerk over why you're going to win the division when you're facing the real geriatric team, which is Max. And then you've got Perry, who's struggling to rebuild. So you don't really have much competition to deal with.
I mean, that's fine. I was invited onto a podcast to preview, the season and the teams in the season, me being the defending champion, thought some people would like to know, my thoughts on my team. If we want to just go straight into Max, we can talk about Lamont Wade for, the next 40 minutes and just call it a day. But, it's up to you guys.
So let's talk a little bit. I didn't know we were going to start with these comments, but I really want to have somebody – I want to have somebody own up to this fourth comment on here. His Moneyball ways will leave him like the ace. I don't even care what the comment means. Who the hell is comparing Adam to a Moneyball franchise? I mean, somebody explain yourself.
If there is one thing my team is not, it is off-brand. Every single player on my team is either an established counting stat guy on a good team that I paid out of the ass for, or the most Twitter friendly waiver wire pickup of all time. No one is underappreciated on my team. There's not a single player that is underrated. I will say that immediately.
That's true. I see Graydon, one of the newest members in the league, sends me a lot of posts from X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I have to say, I've seen a lot of crossover with some of the stuff you send me, Adam. I think you guys are kind of in the same circles. It'll be interesting to see if Graydon adopts a similar organization over in Conference 2 to kind of what you're running in Conference 1. But that's a conference for another, or a discussion for another day. Let's look real quick. Let's just look at the roster, and then I'm gonna. I don't know if this is gonna zoom. I'm gonna zoom in right here. Adam.
Yeah.
Explain yourself. What does Luis Rengifo bring to the table that literally anyone else couldn't?
So I'll talk about Luis Rengifo in himself first, and then I'll talk about the larger league context and why Luis Rengifo is my starting shortstop. In and of himself, I believe he has 4 position eligibilities. I believe he has second base, shortstop, outfield, and then I think he has one more. I forget which. I think it might be third base, which is, just premium. We all love flexibility in our teams. I think he's going to score 70 runs, hit 18 homers, have 60 ribbies, and have 10 steals, a 320 OBP, definition of fine, play everywhere. I'm not mad about it. And in a larger league context, no one is trading their shortstops. And my team is good to the point that I don't feel the need to overpay to just fill a lineup spot that my team is good enough that I don't necessarily need anyways. I am competing in the categories that I am going to compete in. And if my shortstop position got marginally better, sure, I'd get marginally better. I'd have 1 or 2 more runs or RBIs a week. I don't think that's going to make or break any matchups, and I'm just not paying I'm not giving Tarek Skubal for Willie Adames. It's just not happening. It's not good. It's not better for my team, and it's just if that's the way it's going to be, then I'm happy to stick with Luis.
Okay, so I got a question. I got a question here.
Please.
Is there any chance in hell that Kyle Schwarber hits over 40 home runs again? Do you truly believe that?
I don't really see why you wouldn't believe it. He hit 46 2 years ago and 47 last year. So to say that like he's not going to hit 40 again, I mean, like you can say it and like you might be right, but to say that to be like very confident in it, I think is like I mean, whatever. You have nothing to back it up, but like you're entitled to whatever you think could happen.
Okay, fair enough. All right, just trying to defend some choices. That's all.
It's okay.
Ben,
Drew, do you want to defend your comment about Kyle Tucker not stealing 20 bases next year? Along those lines of just like baselessly slandering my team's production.
Yeah, I'm assuming that was written down a little bit in the season preview. Just for context, I probably wrote 90% of this, and then there's some Adam comments sprinkled in here and there. But if you take offense to this season preview and some of the things that are said in it, definitely come to me first. But a couple of them will be Adam. I'm assuming you're not slandering your own team out here, though. So I'll own up to the Kyle Tucker comment, of course. Look, I've never thought of Kyle Tucker as a speedster. And when I look at a couple of years ago, I see Bo Bichette goes like 22 for 22 on stolen bases. And then I hear his agent talking about a 40 stolen base season. I get real hyped about Bo Bichette and his speed. And I think of Bo Bichette as a middle infielder who's quick and agile. And then I look at Kyle Tucker in the outfield, a corner outfielder, and I'm just like, I don't know where this speed is coming from. And so Bo Bichette only steals like 6 or 8 bases, what it was last season, and Kyle Tucker goes for 20 plus last season. I think it's a little fluky. I think there may kind of be a little bit of a reversal there, if not regression for both of them. Bichette in the positive manner, Tucker in the negative manner. I'm not saying he won't get 17, 18. He probably will, but I'm going to go under 20. If there's like a line out there that's, somebody's going to give me like 20 and a half, I'm taking the under.
Once again, he stole 25 bases the year before last year and stole 30 bases last year. So again, you can say that, he's going to score under 20, he's going to steal under 20, but like, it just, I don't know what we do.
It's funny. I just got back from the Mavericks Nuggets game, and I watched Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic play. And for you NBA fans out there, a lot of people would describe those two guys as not fast, quite slow actually. And people, claim their success is due to playing at their own pace, and they play at a speed different than everyone else, and it works out for them. And things that they do really slowly end up being kind of quick actually. It's like a weird thing, but if you follow the NBA, you've probably heard this about them. You maybe wrap your head around it a little bit. My point is, Kyle Tucker might just be like the Nikola Jokic or Luka Doncic of the MLB.
This is some weird white coding language.
He plays at his own pace, and it breaks the pace of baseball in general. It's just the catchers just must not know what to do and how to throw them out. The tag just barely misses because Tucker is sliding in after they already tried to apply the tag. I don't know what it is, man, but look, if Kyle Tucker steals 20 bases, this was in the greater context of I'm worried about the speed a little bit. You got Kyle Schwarber, Paul Goldie. They're not stealing anything. Esteury Ruiz is not shown on this. I just don't trust he'll get enough playing time. I feel like it is the A's. They probably use him this year. Going forward, I don't think he's an MLB caliber player, like starting. It is what it is.
No, you're very, very well could be right there.
Let's talk real quick about Adley Rutschman. Adam, what's your own personal projection for Adley this season? Are you thinking is he a 25 homer guy? Is he a 20 homer guy? What are you thinking?
I'd like to consider myself sort of like an Adley realist, in that like he's just like a very good catcher. But like he's not like he's not gonna do 130, 100. I'd probably say he's maybe like 80, 85 runs, 22 homers, 80 ribbies with like a very good OBP. It's a very, 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 very good fantasy catcher, probably the number one or two. But
Negligible impact.
I would say, well, based on position value, he is very high impact. But like, if you put Adley Rutschman at first base, I think he would have like fine stats in comparison. He'd obviously play more if he played first base, but so.
Where does Adley bat in the O's lineup?
2, generally.
Okay. 90 runs could push. 100 win.
I mean, and with catchers, like the biggest thing is just playing time, just because they play less consistently than any other position due to like it just hurts to play catcher. That's why like Salvador Perez like still puts up numbers because he just like plays more than any other catcher does. And Adley sort of follows in that path there. So he'll put up good numbers, but like it's just good numbers, and the fact that he's a catcher is what makes him so valuable.
Ben,
okay, yeah.
What are you thinking about? And let me just. I had this comment in here originally, and then I deleted it. It became a little bit less relevant, but it's still pretty relevant. Let me go through the pitchers real quick that didn't make the list here because we ran out of space.
Please.
Clayton Kershaw, Kyle Bradish, Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher when he's back in a couple years. Chris Paddock, Casey Mize, Matt Brash, though he's injured, Emmanuel Clace, Jordan Romano. I know I said a lot of names, and probably not everyone's going to register there. But Ben, what do you take from Adams' pitching depth, considering Clayton Kershaw can't even crack this list in 2024?
You also still didn't say Yuri or Imanaga, but that's fine too. We could just keep going.
That's right, Shota.
Well, Yuri, a lot like Clayton Kershaw, is injured, so that's probably the reason that they haven't cracked the list. I'm going to say Jacob deGrom kind of goes the same way. Obviously Kyle Bradish is out currently as well. I don't know how long that's going to be for. Matt Brash is currently out right now. Again, just a relief pitcher, not the worst thing in the world. You do have the addition of Framber Valdez. You will have Imanaga that's coming up. Again, I think this is a good rotation. I'm not going to call it the best in the league. I think that's probably what Adam feels like. I think he's got a I would say around a top 3 rotation in the league. I think Brian Weathers is obviously an interesting choice. Not really sure what he's doing on the list here, considering he's my trash and we got rid of him a few years ago. If he's
you just put a guy that was that was going to be the 5 pitcher on the Giants. I just got a guy who's a number 3 off waivers who currently leads the major leagues in spring training.
Well, when we do mine, I can guarantee you I'm going to be criticized for owning him. So you're allowed to be criticized for owning Ryan Weathers.
Okay.
You've fallen into the trap. Yeah. You've fallen into the trap of the Kansas City pitching. We all know it never works. I like Cole Reagans. I do, full disclosure. But I have – it's just like it's Kansas City pitching. They're just terrible. But, I mean, overall, there's not really much to shit on the pitching side of things. I mean, everything's as solid as you could possibly make it, like you said, without overspending and going nuts. It's about as good as you're going to get it.
He says all this while wearing a Kansas City Royals jersey.
He knows.
I said pitching.
Yeah. I have one last question, and then I want to make one last comment here. And I'll ask this to Ben as well. And Adam can chime in too. But Alexis Diaz, brother of Edwin Diaz, he burst onto the scene, and for the last 1.5 years, he's been about as an elite of closer in baseball as there is.
Sure.
As somebody who grew up watching Aroldis Chapman, Ben, that city loves their closers. What are you thinking, Alexis Diaz? Can he continue to play kind of at the elite pace that he did last year and pitch for this up-and-coming baseball team in Cincinnati?
I will never say that about any reliever. I mean, truly. You really never know. I mean, save for the absolute greatest of greats, relievers are so volatile year to year. I mean, I really don't know why any team would pay a reliever a multi-year contract or say, no, he's absolutely 100% our closer. Like, if somebody better comes along who can do the job, that guy's out. listen, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Alexis Diaz, but I'm not getting hype over relief pitchers because half of them on everybody's teams are going to be cycled out come the midpoint of the year. So I don't even really like to talk relief pitchers. You have like 4 or 5 relief pitchers, awesome, cool. Like that's all you need. It doesn't really matter who they are because it's going to change so much. Now, if we played in the early 2000s and you had Mariano Rivera, I mean, it's a totally different story. But those guys don't come along very often. And certainly I don't know if there's anyone in the MLB today that's that great for so long.
Yeah, I think with relievers and, Drew, I'm sure you can chime in as you've been in the market for them recently, but you're right, Ben, that you're really paying more for consistency and opportunity than you are even for really skill. If, you just had a team that was like fairly decent, that would just commit that like, listen, every time that we are winning by 3 or fewer runs in the 9th inning, we are putting out this guy. He would, for like the next 3 years, like he would be the number 1 reliever in our league, just like by the basis that like we know that like he's not going to come and go. And when like you go for like the big name brand guys, like the, just talking my team, like the Clases and the Romanos, like that's really the price and the skill that like, you're going to just go out there and like you're going to get like the 40 save hold guys. I agree with you completely that like you can get probably 25, 28, maybe even 30 save holds off of waivers if you just like are paying attention the first couple weeks of the year. Those guys will come around, absolutely. They shuffle all the time. But once you get up to like the top 10 sort of closers, then they stay, and that's their value. That like you just know going into the year and going into the season that like these are my guys. They're going to do this instead of like he blows 2 saves and all of a sudden he's in like AAA and your team is just traded for James Karinchak to be their closer.
We didn't really talk about Riley Green. We didn't really talk about Mason Miller. There's definitely some other names here. Adam,
so many other teams in the conference.
Since we have you, any final thoughts you want to give here, and then we'll move on to the next team?
No, I think I'm okay. Asturi Ruiz will be starting in my lineup every day this season.
Will he really?
Yep.
Who is he going to be starting over, out of curiosity?
I mean, you guys can find out. But every day that he is in the lineup, he will be playing because my team can afford it. So I just wanted you all to know that for your fun little projection system. See, what that sort of tweak does. I know already, but if you guys want to find out later, very excited, ready to talk about the rest of the conference. And I'm gonna put this down because it is very big and very heavy.
Very shiny too.
As Adam's doing that, we're moving on. I'll spew some blasphemy for a second and just say I think if Tatis goes down, there is some big trouble here, potentially.
If Juan Soto gets hit by a car, your team's in trouble. If Spencer Strider, is a pitcher, Ben's team is also in trouble. You can't just cherry pick
That's fair.
If this team's best player is out for the season, then their team is worse. Yes, thank you.
Okay, fair enough. I guess for me, without trying to jump back too far, is kind of your farm system's a little bit decimated, I would say. But, that's just one person's opinion. But anyway, let's not jump back too much. Let's head on to Max.
Wow, not even giving me a chance to respond to that.
Nope, you don't even get a rebuttal. Because listen, you won the championship. We can all admit you have the best team.
We don't need to talk about my farm. Let's talk about
exactly.
Max.
Well, you know what? I know Adam has some thoughts on farm systems. Let's tackle those when we get to a certain other league member here coming up that may or may not have a strong farm system, but otherwise has experienced a lot of success in this league.
Now it's time
Max.
for the real geriatric squad.
So John Verti is a late addition to this
It's so funny.
roster.
It's so good.
He's an FTN legend who has single-handedly changed the fate of playoff hopefuls in FTN before. I guess Max is expecting him or, hoping and praying that he can do something like that again. Jake Berger is there in Miami. I don't exactly know their infield configuration. I can't imagine Berti's an everyday player. Just wanted to note that he's here. Max doesn't have another third baseman on his roster, and there's not a lot of help in the farm on the way here. So if you're looking to offload a third baseman, Max may be a trade partner. Talking about his actual team this year, Altuve's back, but another year older. Whit Merrifield is here, another year older. We talked about how this is the AARP eligible squad. It is pretty old. The bench is older than the starting lineup, though. I mentioned 2 guys. The rest of these guys might kind of be in their prime. Pete Alonso, he might hit 125, 130 RBIs in a bounce back season for the Mets as a whole. Seiya Suzuki should be on track to post his best season as a major leaguer this year. Cedric Mullins has some question marks in the outfield, just as far as playing time and everything else they got there. Logan Hoppe, huge rookie season, his first month until he goes on the shelf, but he should be good there. Adam, I want to know your favorite player here on this team.
Well, I'll go outside of the obvious choices, being like Xander Altuve, Pete, just because they're actually good. I would go Seiya Suzuki. I think is a very good piece. I'd say what Max's team has and what Seiya is a prime example of are good complementary players. They're players that will help you in 4 categories on offense that are going to be solid pluses, and they're going to do the job. And if you have enough impact around them, enough studs around them, then they can really help to fill out a roster. Max just doesn't really have that impact. But Seiya, great on base ability, hits for extra bases, fits in a good lineup, scores runs, gets RBI, doesn't really steal a ton, but to be a solid 4 category contributor, I think he's a great player and would be, if there was a little bit more oomph around him, I think he would shine a little bit brighter.
Ben, I'm going to ask another Reds fan question here because I got to know, what is the deal with Jonathan India? Personally, I think he's a great player. I've heard a lot of disagreements.
I don't think he's a very good player. I think there was one point in time where he was full of promise. I think that time has now passed. They've got a log jam in the infield. Understand the injury affects things like that. But I think it's time because they're going to owe him a lot of money next year if they choose to retain his services. And I think it's time to get rid of Jonathan India. I'll tell you this. So my local card shop, I had pulled a Jonathan India auto card. And I went to the local card shop to sell it. And they wouldn't buy it because they said we have so much Jonathan India stuff, it doesn't sell. Because he's just a guy who has fallen out of favor with the team. So I think it actually could be good for Jonathan India to get a change in scenery, maybe somewhere new, maybe get some more playing time, because I really think, they haven't projected at 441 at bats this year. I think that's on the high end. I really do. I wouldn't surprise to see him get platooned more often and end up in the 250 to 300 range. And you've got some other, we were joking about John Berti and how he single-handedly changed things. You've got him, you've got India, you've got Whit Merrifield, you got TJ Friedel just went down with an injury. Who knows how long he's going to be out. Mm-hmm. And, you've got these guys on the bench who are good, no doubt, but you don't have the positional eligibility to really do anything about it. It's not like if Berti and Jonathan India are out of that lineup. Sure, he can move Altuve up there and one guy into the util, but there's some serious positional problems, I think, on the offense. And it's a team that's getting older. Drew, like you said, Altuve, who really knows what he's going to give us this year? We know what Altuve has been able to do in the past, but, it's been a few years since he was one of the best players in baseball.
I personally think the Astros, too, might just be a little bit weaker overall, and Altuve is one of those players whose value might be a little bit linked to how good the lineup is around him, because the Astros could maybe hide him a little bit, and if he's their most dangerous threat, then, they might be able to pitch around him a little bit better. But
he's Adam, certainly not the Astros' most dangerous threat. But
Kyle Tucker, Jordan there, I get it, but it just
Bregman.
feels like the hype around the Astros is less than it's been in any year since George Springer came up and they became the powerhouse that they are, right? it lacks a little bit of oomph for me compared to previous years. I'm like, the Astros might be a 90-win team this year. They might not be pushing 100 wins. Offense scores 30 less runs this year, 40 less runs. Altuve's another year older. I get that there might be some question marks, but I am shocked. Altuve is the one guy last year that Max, he made 6 deadline deal trades. I'm surprised Altuve was the shocker that didn't get included in any of those. I think he absolutely could have gotten some value for him. We'll see if it happens this year. Adam, you look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like there are, a bunch of guys sort of on my mind on the roster that make, just like I said earlier, just like very good pieces for a team that's like really ready to put them to use. Like Max is, if you ask him and if you sort of look at like the general landscape of the team, like he's probably gearing up to, start competing again in like 25 or 26. And, some of the pieces that are here, even if like they are a little bit older, like could still be contributing then. So I understand like to not go the full fire sale. But I do think that there are a couple more pieces that could be on the move here. I mean, like Ketel Marte, is a guy there that's not even, really on the screen. Oh, he's in the corner. Yandy is a good player. Xander is a good player, getting older. But again, these guys are just like good. They're not great, and they're not getting Max anywhere, but they will get, someone else, higher. And I know we've said it about Max for years and years and years that he needs to do X, Y, and Z. He needs to trade yada yada to what's his face. And he hasn't really done it, but really been speaking to him recently, and with the moves of the deadline last year, like I really think that is something that he will consider moving forward.
Help me out here, Adam, or Ben, if you want to pull it up. It doesn't really matter. I want to go through real quick Xander Bogaerts, because you just mentioned him, Adam. I thought last year, his first season in a Padre uniform, he went off for like the first month and a half of the season, and every question was, well, where's Juan Soto? Where's Manny Machado? Why aren't they showing up for these Padres? And then Soto and Machado started to heat up a little bit, and then they still weren't scoring runs, and I think Xander Bogaerts just kind of plummeted a little bit. How did Xander Bogaerts' season last year compare to his like normal career averages, and what are people thinking for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I got it pulled up now. He had a really interesting year last year, and the fact that like most of everything looks the same, had like a bit of a dip in batting average and OBP. Generally like a 300 hitter. Last year he was like 285.
It's expected moving from like Fenway to Petco or whatever the stadium down there.
Yeah, definitely more of a pitcher's park. But it was really, the big dip was in RBI. And the Padres moved him to the top of the lineup, and their bottom of the lineup is very poor, and their team just like struggled to score runs overall last year. So it ended up with like a very lopsided spread of, it was 83 runs to 58 RBI, which is sort of more of like a 3 category guy than you'd really expect. But most interesting thing to me last year is that he went from going from about 5 to 8 steals in the previous 5 or 6 seasons to stealing 19 last year at the age of 30. So definitely like a new rules steal guy. But you don't know. It's hard to bet on a guy going into his age 31 season to like continue the massive leap that he made in steals. Maybe it's possible, but it certainly is like a scary thing to need to depend on.
Now, I just got to say this because I just want to interject on it. I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I think Xander Bogaerts is one of the most overrated players in baseball. I really do. He's got a good OBP, but outside of that, nothing else really jumps off the page as multi-time MVP and All-Star, or multi-time MVP candidate and All-Star. Doesn't really jump off the page at me. I mean, like 19 and 19, like awesome. I mean, there's quite a few guys who did that out in the MLB and weren't considered the level of guy that he was.
So Dalton Varsho numbers, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think on a team level, I think we're talking about the Padres, and now that he's playing for them, obviously, I think the Padres are going to be one of the biggest dumpster fires in the MLB this year. I really do. I genuinely do. I think I shouldn't say dumpster fire like they're going to be bad, but I think they're going to get nowhere near their expectations. And I could see that having an impact on a lot of these Padres players. But again, that's just one of my personal stupid little opinions that no one cares about. So we'll move past that.
Let's keep talking about the Padres dumpster fire then for a second, because they made headlines this past week when they kind of came out of nowhere, because we kept hearing Dylan Cease rumors to a lot of Eastern Seaboard teams, let's call it, and not really to the Southwest, where we now find Dylan Cease, who has been acquired from the White Sox in a shock trade, now plying his trade in San Diego. What do we think of this move for the Padres, and what do we think of the fantasy impacts of Cease moving to San Diego?
Oh, well, it's an improvement over the White Sox. No doubt. I mean,
so are most minor league teams.
I was going to say, it's hard not to improve over the White Sox. So it's definitely a plus for him. It's a plus for San Diego. I mean, it's never bad to bolster the rotation with some more arm. And it's a good move for Dylan Cease. I mean, he's probably going to get 4 or 5 more wins than he ever would on the White Sox. I don't think it's going to change how he plays as an underlying player very much. But beyond that, yeah, it's a little nice bump in his wins, but I don't think it changes a whole lot for at least Max's side of things outside of that.
Yeah, I definitely think, Dylan Cease is going to do what Dylan Cease does. He's going to strike out a lot of guys. He's going to walk a lot of guys, and, he's going to give up a lot of runs, or maybe he won't. Maybe he'll throw a no-hitter. Maybe he'll give up 8. But generally, like a bump in win chances in San Diego. It's definitely a big thing there. But it adds like an interesting piece to, Max's biggest strength, which is his pitching. And sort of an unheralded Max Suddendorf style. I don't know if any of you guys are in any other sorts of leagues with him. You'll find that he has like the same 4 players in every, like he owns Justin Steele in every league. There's no Justin Steele share that Max doesn't have. But the guys like that and like Sonny Gray and Merrill Kelly, like they're not flashy, but at times last year and what I think will go into this year, he'll be very competitive in ratios. They've never been like the big K guys, but like if he gets, Sonny Gray on the Cardinals, Merrill Kelly on the Diamondbacks, Dylan Cease on the Padres, these are like Justin Steele on the Cubs. These are good pitchers on good teams. Like, I think he's like a sneaky tough pitching opponent. But again, if nothing happens to the team before the year, but it's another positive development for an offseason that has largely been just aging for Max's team. So we'll take those.
I have personally ranked these pitchers in the order that they appear here. That's kind of how I put these together. Like the first top pitchers, like the guy that I personally rank number 1. I can't tell you if it's like for 2024 season alone or just like overall value. It's just kind of my gut feeling on these guys. So I rank these guys. I'm going to go through the 5 that you see here. Clay Holmes. I tried to use like the best reliever for every team in that spot, but it's I got Dylan Cease, Shane Bieber, Merrill Kelly, Sonny Gray, Justin Steele. Adam, how would you rank these 5 guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think I put Steele at 1. I think I go probably Gray at 2, and then probably a toss up between Cease and Kelly at the 3, 4. I just think, with these guys, it's all about dependability in the ratios, and that's sort of where they, succeed. Cease is just too inconsistent for my taste. And Bieber, if he comes back and is productive in anywhere where he's been in the past, obviously there's been rumors of the velo bump. That would be really big for him. If he can do that, it's another good piece. But yeah, again, it's not exciting, but it's very, very functional.
Max was, you keep talking about ratios. Max was 3rd in ERA last year, 5th in WHIP, although the WHIP gaps were super tight. I think Sonny Gray, Cy Young last year. Shane Bieber's got a Cy Young. Dylan Cease finished like 2nd, I think, like 2 years ago. Man, there's a lot of prestige here, even though we keep saying that these guys are like in a little quiet, I guess, like not as flashy, I think was the word that you used. Well, flashy doesn't always mean bad or good. Like, I mean, you can be not flashy and good, and that's what kind of maybe what these guys are. They're just like super solid. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Ben, you have any other thoughts on this team? What I know
Just
you.
old.
You always. I know you always want to say that Max needs to trade. Maybe let's go over to his key storylines a little bit. Um, he's improved his record every season, and honestly, I love this stat so much. And I always quote it. I'm sure actually everyone in the league knows this because I talk about it all the time. I know Jack mentioned that he's done the same. I don't think that's technically correct. I think he finished with a not as good winning percentage in the COVID season compared to other seasons, but Max has. I know this one for sure. There's no way, right? There's no way he does this again.
Again, I think a lot of it is the fact that within his own division, he's always had a team, or at least for the past 2 or 3 years, that has historically been bad. So I would say it's easier to improve your record when you get to get free wins against a team in a given year. I don't think Max does it again. He's always found a way to, keep pushing these guys and keep pushing these guys and get something out of them. And I always think we've always kind of guessed too quickly that someone's age is going to catch up to them. It takes longer than we always think. It always does. We're always a little bit fast with it. But it doesn't change the fact that it's coming. It may not be this year in its immediacy, but it's happening. And I do like the fact that Max has gone out and got some prospects. So, he's got some things in the wings waiting for him. I just don't think this team, with Max's strategy that he has right now versus Adam and maybe eventually versus Barry, that he'll be anything ever more than a maximum of a second place team. I truly don't think he's ever going to improve from there because he's not going to make the wild card because Jack and Sean are both better than him. So, he's always going to be that odd man out because he doesn't want to make a change to what he's doing, but his team will never win 130 games. His team will never make it all the way through the playoffs. It's a good team. It's a sneaky good team like you talked about, but in the same way of the Oakland A's and Moneyball, since that got brought up earlier, it's a team that can get wins, but when it comes down to it, just can't close the deal. And that's how I look at Max's team. Good team, nothing really to shit on, but it's not amazing. It doesn't enthuse me whatsoever.
Let's talk
I
a
would
little
love
bit.
to. I would just real quick. I would love to see Max trade Roki Sasaki and Dylan Cruz for just big name sluggers, and just go the opposite way of what we're all saying. I think he could have a competitive team based on I'm sure he would get hauls for obviously for both of them. But if he swapped out John Berti for like Nolan Arenado, and then like all of a sudden you get one or two more like stud bats in there, like all of a sudden then he's just good. He's just good. Like who cares?
Let's we are going to get into Dylan Cruz in just 1 second because we have you, resident Nats fan. How about Dylan Cruz and Roki Sasaki for Aaron Judge?
Well, if we're trying, we're talking, I think we can get more than that.
Wow.
I'm sure. It's Roki Sasaki and Dylan Cruz. I mean, if you really like open prospect universe right now, I mean, it's probably like the number 3 and like 8 overall prospects. For like I think that I think you can push it, get a little something there. I think he needs more. But
why don't you walk us through real quickly, and then we'll move on to the next team. But let's real quickly get your thoughts because you posted something about Roki Sasaki a few minutes ago in the group chat, and then you also you're the Nats fan, so you're closer to Dylan Cruz than probably anyone in this league. So, what are your thoughts on those two guys? What can they provide Max this year, and what can Roki Sasaki provide potentially in a few years? Who is he? What does he do?
Yeah, I personally don't think that Cruz is going to get a ton of time in the majors this year. I'd be pretty surprised if he was up anytime before like August. I think he might get a cup of coffee. He really did struggle in Double-A last year, unless he comes out and like really forces their hand like a Soto-esque like 600. I think he's just gonna like take a year in the minors, which I'm totally okay with. But he'll be like a 5 category guy. I don't think he's got like 30 home run pop, but he's definitely can be like a 25 guy. Sort of like a Lane Thomas, but like socially acceptable, like the HR meme about like the harassment versus flirting. Like I think Dylan Cruz is sort of the flirting Lane Thomas. And Roki Sasaki is a stud. I mean, he's everything that Yamamoto is, except with like a slightly more like modern arsenal. I think he's got a better fastball. He doesn't have like a curveball like Yamamoto has that really isn't like in vogue this in the majors this year. He's the next guy, and I've always thought he was better than Yamamoto. So, and he's young. He's amazing. He's the man. He's the man.
I would like to see Max get some more Asian players because there have been some bids out there for them, and he's not winning all of them. And I go back to a couple of years ago during a season preview, and I had a bunch of Royals and Cardinals players, and Adam's like, Drew, you have like the closest thing to a themed team in this league, and whatever, right? Whatever that turned into. But Max could have a themed team, and I know he wants it. Go for it, Max. Don't tell me you don't have BAM. You have the BAM to go after these guys. You could trade Altuve, get 65 BAM at this year's All-Star break if he's having a pretty good season, like a normal Altuve season, and you can just build the future in Asia. I would love to see it.
You guys remember how I said my comments for the second one? I'm glad to see that my opinion on Jonathan India has not changed. Jonathan India sucks. He sucks, and I'll maintain that.
All right. It's good stuff on Max. I'd say best of luck, Max, but I feel like if I ever want to make the playoffs again, I must be better than you. So I'll be rooting against you every step of the way. You can be sure about that. Harry. Oh, this one's fun because from a micro point of view, there's so many exciting, polarizing players here. And from a macro perspective, it is also just a polarizing franchise.
Who do you have for Rhys Hoskins' picture right now?
Oh, okay. That is, I'll zoom way in.
That's Sal Frelick.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice my Photoshop. That's Sal Frelick's, I guess, face. I needed to put a Brewers hat on him because they didn't have
that's disgusting. I didn't realize that. That's so good.
We are creating Frankensteins out here.
Yes, we are.
What a player that would be.
It doesn't look too bad
for like Rhys Hoskins.
I mean, like Juan Soto, basically.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, I could spend an hour talking about how I think Michael Harris II actually isn't very good. I could spend an hour talking about how Edward Cabrera actually is really good. God, I don't even know where to start with this team. Ben, why don't you jump in somewhere? Start talking.
Listen, I think for better or for worse, Perry is going for it. He's committed to the rebuild. He's going to slog it through. He's not going to be rash. I think Perry, more so than anyone else in this league I've talked to, maybe only second to Jacob, has a really high evaluation for his players. He's not willing to just make deals. I know it's very tough to make deals with Perry.
It hurts, man.
Yeah, but you know what? That's a good thing. If he's committed to the rebuild, he's like, I know my guy's worth. I'm not letting him go for cheap. Then you know what? Good on Perry. I think there's a lot of young guys in the squad to like. I personally think Anthony Volpe is not that great. I know there are a lot of Volpe fans out there, but if you talk to them, they act like he's the second coming of Jesus, and I don't think that's the case. Personally, one of my favorites on this roster is Jordan Walker. I think Jordan Walker is not talked about enough. I think if he could really turn it on this year, crank a few more homers, he could be a serious, 25, 20, 30, 20 guy. I think that's kind of probably his ceiling. But you've also got a lot of pieces that I don't like on this roster. You've got one Jared Kelenic. Now, I get it. You wanna scratch the lotto ticket. I understand those things, but I'm just telling you, it's not worth it. We know what we're gonna get from him. Stephen Kwan, again, high OBP. He's going to get you some runs. He's going to get you some stolen bases. But, is it really worth going out and spending when you could just wait someone on your farm to come up? And I think that's Perry's strategy, is build the farm system, suffer through all the ridicule, suffer through the dumpster fire. It'll only get better. And I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I for one probably think that this team is closer than I think a lot of people would give it credit for. there are a lot of decent pieces. Again, it sort of like lacks impact, but like unlike Max's team where like no one's really growing into impact, there are a couple of guys here that could grow into that impact. And, I think you could start seeing those numbers start to come up. But the really interesting thing, you mentioned it, Drew, and I'm sure we'll get there, is this pitching staff. That if you pull up just like a fantasy baseball article, just like drafting my first team, like what do I do? There's going to be a paragraph in there about how you need to balance risk. and injury risk with starting pitchers is like the number one thing. Like you need like a Framber Valdez, like guys just going to throw 92 for 200 innings. And then you can take shots on guys like Jesus Luzardo and Hunter Green, who might win Cy Youngs and might, literally die.
Are we still in the phase of Luzardo's career where we have to say taking him as a risk? Come on, man. Put some respect on his name.
I'm actually more like I'm less out on him because of injury risk now, and I'm more out on him, dude. I just don't think he's that good, which is sad, and I wish it was the other way around. But a ton of intriguing high ceiling names in this rotation, and all of them might be terrible.
I think that these projections on ESPN are way overestimating what these guys are capable of, especially in the ERA department. I think this pitching in its current format is probably challenging Ryan for one of the worst rotations / bullpens in the league. Wow. I firmly believe that.
Go through these 5 guys we got on the screen. Fried. Well, we don't have to do Fried. We know he's going to be good. Go Jesus Luzardo, Hunter Green, Edward Cabrera, Jack Flaherty. What does ESPN have for their ERAs?
Jack Flaherty is a 4.25. Max Fried is a 3.13. Jesus Luzardo 3.66. Hunter Green 4.22. I think all of them are higher. I think Max Fried, obviously, he's a great addition only because he's going to get a lot of wins on that Atlanta team. I don't know how many innings he's going to end up pitching, and obviously he just came back from injury, so there's always a risk he re-injures, but it's a risk with any single pitcher. Hunter Green plays in one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks on earth. He's a guy who's a one-trick pony in that he only pitches fast. There's nothing really else impressive about him. I'm not super familiar. I'm not a Jesus Luzardo expert, so I can't really speak much on that. But Jack Flaherty kind of sucks. He's kind of sucked for a minute now.
He's a tiger. Don't you say that about him. He has made impressive gains this spring.
I like Tigers pitchers who they draft and then they sell and then they end up being Hall of Famers. I like those Tiger pitchers. I don't like the guys who had good careers and then came to the Tigers to end their careers. And I think that's what Jack Flaherty is doing now. There is a 0% chance that Jack Flaherty has an ERA under 4.25. It's just not happening. 0.
Oh. Speaking of Tigers players that are drafted by them and shipped off to greener pastures where those players flourish, Isaac Paredes, sneaky good season last year. Oh my God, is this repeatable, Adam?
First of all, that was an unbelievable transition, and I think you should be proud of yourself. I don't know if you had this written down because you knew we were going to talk about Tigers pitchers, and you knew we needed to talk about Isaac Paredes. Very impressive. I think the answer is yes, it is repeatable. And I've spent most of my offseason sort of obsessing about how he and other players do this, and sort of trying to find the next guy that shouldn't be able to hit 15 homers but hits 30. But it's really all just an approach thing. He literally, I'm going to put everything in the air and I'm going to pull everything. It got another prime example like that is Alex Bregman. These guys do not have pop. They have no raw pop, but it just doesn't matter because if you hit it 345 in the right place, you still get to go around all 4 bags. And that's sort of one of those things that even more it's not even a physical thing. It's just what he does. And it provides, I think, more, cause for consistency than I would even say to a baseline physical upgrade. If he showed up stronger, there are a bunch of guys that are, even on his own team, Yandy Diaz is a fucking moose, but he hits 15 homers a year because he's the literal opposite of Isaac Paredes. But Paredes, like, he could get big. I don't really think I'd care as long as he keeps putting the ball in the air and pulling it. I think he's a good piece. That offense is going to be, I think worse than it was last year. Obviously, the loss of their best player really sucks. But I just think he's going to hit 28, 30 homers, and like, who cares about the rest? It's awesome.
I think that Perry's team gets better this year. I do think his team gets better. It was hard to get worse. I think it gets better, but I still think there's a ways off before he's competing versus either Max or Adam. I think that there is, a vision down the road where that can happen, but I don't think we should expect more than 60 to 65 wins this year. I think that's probably my guess. So I'm really curious to see what you have.
60 to 65 wins. It's always hard to say with adding 20 extra games this year. I'll just say I do think that he will be better than last season. To your point, it would be hard not to be better. I also think that the ceiling is raised a little bit. We talked about timeline a little bit in Max's segment, where teams just take a little bit longer to age than I think some of us may have initially thought. So we haven't seen, Max and Jack's old teams really decline all that much yet. I think the inverse is true as well, where player development, the cliche is it's not linear. It's so incredibly true. However, there are some young players here that are going to be going into their third and fourth years in the majors, and obviously Volpe and Walker going into their second years. We could see some massive jumps. I'm looking at Edward Cabrera, Hunter Green, Jeremy Pena. Those three guys could just take these leaps. I'm not saying they're going to be all-stars, but I'm just saying Edward Cabrera, give me a 4.2 ERA in Miami with double-digit wins. Hunter Green, give me 200 strikeouts. I know you can do it. Stay healthy. Jeremy Pena, just take your rookie season you had and do that again. Forget last year. Just do your rookie season again. And this is going to be a fine lineup. I love Stephen Kwan's floor. Brian Reynolds is the best player here, in my opinion, and that's not a good place to be, but there are some exciting talents that you put it all together, it's going to be a better team than what it was. Two intriguing guys in the farm from a pitching perspective. We're not going to see one of them in 2024. That's this guy in the back corner over here painting on a fence, Mr. Andrew Painter, 2025. There is one guy, though, that's coming up this year, and I'm quite excited about him because I just seem to love all the Yankees pitching prospects. Will Warren. I've heard from several podcasts that I tune into or articles, wherever you want to, however you get your baseball. Some people have Will Warren ranked over Chase Hampton. Freaking insane.
You say it as
Andrew
Andrew
says
says
it's like
Hampton's like the top 5.
Yeah,
pitcher in
exactly.
baseball.
Like
It's
they
just not
says
that
it like
hard.
anyone besides Drew loves Chase Hampton. Like in Drew's world, Chase Hampton is the pitching god. There's never been anyone as good as him.
Right, like I mean,
Chase
in
Hampton
their
is-
primes, it's probably like like Tom Seaver, Randy Johnson, Chase Hampton. But so to put Will Warren up there, it's really saying quite a lot.
This is not the Chase Hampton pod, but Will Warren definitely competing for a spot in a Yankees rotation that just had a massive hole open up in it. And we'll see him this year. Everyone knows that we will. And I think that was the best acquisition of the BAM Live auction draft. He got him for less than 10 for a guy who most have ranked as a top 100 prospect or just outside of it. I love what he could offer to this pitching staff. And by next year, you add Andrew Painter to this staff, and you see some improvement from some of these guys that you can see on the screen here from a starting pitching perspective. That's going to be nasty.
True.
Your division with Max's pitchers and yours, Adams and Perry's, it's going to be the best in the league.
Drew, I feel like there's one guy you missed off his prospect list who could make a really big impact on his pitching this year.
Who is
He's
it?
a league
Say the name.
favorite.
Say the name.
Say it, Drew. Say the name.
Are you talking about Libby?
Sixto Sanchez.
Sixto.
He's back, baby. He's finally in form. Maybe this is the key that Perry was missing, Mr. Sixto Sanchez.
That'd
It's
be
not.
a third Marlins pitcher. All right, that's not a bad place to be.
It's not
It's
a
not
bad
a great
place
one
to be.
either. I'll say before we move on.
Jack built some stuff with some Marlins pitching. Go ahead.
I'll say before we move on, my guy, if we're going to talk about pitching prospects that are going to make an impact this year, a guy that I would say is better than Chase Hampton, Jared Jones, I think rocks. And he's fighting to be in that Pirates rotation this year, probably soon. And he throws 100 with a really nasty slider cutter thing. And if he wasn't on the Pirates, I think he would be like unbelievable. Maybe if he was a Tiger, like, oh my God. But no, I think if you had to pick a guy that's going to come up and like really impact this rotation and stay and be a guy that we're talking about next year, like making a huge leap to make Perry a contender, I think Jared Jones is that guy.
I love getting a guy who I think could be in the rotation of the 2024 NL Central champions. I'm with you, Adam.
All I'm going to say is that I would come back and say Noah Schultz is better than all of them. The point is we could sit here all day long and talk about whose pitching prospects are better than whose, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of a dart throw. It is such a fun game, but it's not the game we're playing today. So let's move on. So that's the end of Division 1, isn't it? Correct?
Well,
Correct.
So Ryan had this team in a great spot. We all know what happened. He blew it up. Perry took a year to just learn the ins and outs of not just the league, but the ins and outs of the league itself. I expect he'll come on. He'll have a better record. There's no way he's bottoming out like this again.
And I want to say, Max claims he improved every year, but he went from 100 to 100 to 105. I wouldn't call that soaring. I think that's the definition of plateau.
Well,
I'd also say that
he did improve the record. He did improve it because there was less losses.
And when it comes to improving, Perry currently in the farm system sheet at 1040 on a Sunday evening. I don't know what else you want out of the guy. He's going to win the league. I'll just get the belt to him right now.
My guy. All right, what are people saying? Should have been given back to Ryan. That's just mean.
No, I absolutely fully agree with that statement. Ryan should have been forced to re-inherit that team.
We should have had our own personal Perry Ryan draft, and they could just draft from each other's teams and really get.
Ryan lit the dumpster on fire and then walked out the door. That's what Ryan did, and poor Perry had to inherit that.
So some guy in the second to last one, whoever this was, just has been saying shit for everyone. At least this one says shit, but I'm sympathetic.
Right, exactly. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Okay. All right, can we get on to the fun division now?
Let's take a small ad break real quick. No, just kidding. So, let's see. Division 2. If I'm going to pull this up, and you guys are going to have to let me know if you can see this or if we're not there yet.
By the
way,
we're
not there yet.
I think these projections are pretty good for Division 1.
I said 60
win
exactly.
Projections. Yeah, so I think those projections are pretty good, pretty spot on. I don't think Max gets considerably worse, and I don't think Perry gets considerably better. So I think it's probably spot on. I think it's the same exact that you're going to see from last year. Max hasn't made any massive improvements. Perry's gotten marginally better. Maybe he'll take a bigger step forward, but it's an unknown. And you've not gotten substantially worse. So I don't think there's much to be changed.
All right, so we just hopped over to a new document. I had to stop sharing my screen and resharing it. I really hope this doesn't mess it up. We've had issues with this in the past, but fingers crossed. So this is obviously my team.
Brady Singer in the death zone.
Yeah, he's kind of like he's been forgotten about, and that's okay because he kind of sucks.
So Drew, before we start talking about your team, can you explain, because you've been the Brady Singer guy for years now. You've told everyone in this league probably privately 1,000,000 times that you will never ever get rid of Brady Singer. You'll never trade him. You'll never drop him. He is there until the sun explodes and we all die. What's the sudden turn?
Yeah, I mean, we say right here. I'm with you, Ben. I know I've said that, but Brady Singer, that man's now in the hot seat, and for good reason. Look, it's pretty clear that the Royals cannot develop pitching. It's pretty clear that they're going nowhere as a team. The wins aren't going to pile up. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He clearly got very favorable umpire calls during that unbelievable called strike season. I mean, he was getting Waino level respect from the umpires, and you don't get that until you've had the career that Waino has had, and then you're doing that in your age 40 season like he was. Brady Singer didn't earn that respect. He must have been bribing the umps or something. So look, could he bounce back and be good, live up to that first round billing out of Florida? Like I think he can. Will he? Almost certainly not. That man's not even going to touch my starting rotation until he puts together 4 or 5 good starts. This is like the worst Alek Manoah timeline ever. He could be out of the league this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I would love to see the Cardinals sign him. I think their pitching development can do a lot.
All right, hold on. We're getting way off. I know
Brady
you
Singer.
are literally. I was just a simple question.
That was
You're not
dangerous.
allowed to be in charge of your own team. Okay, so let's get back to things. Let's go back in order. I think a lot of people, including yourself, think you've been a little bit delusional about this team. I think it's a term that's been thrown around, and there was a league poll that confirmed, yes, you are indeed the most delusional owner in FTN. So I want to hear why you don't believe that. Let's not get into a 15-minute rant. We don't need a manifesto. I just want a quick, succinct answer about why you don't think you're delusional.
I will say before we get into based on the timing thing, we did say that we were going to do a 45-minute podcast on the whole conference, and we just did an hour on Division One. So let's keep that in mind with all future answers.
We had an introduction. We had some technical difficulties. We had to spend extra time to talk about the champion. I mean,
Of course.
Look, people don't want to talk about Brady Singer. They want to talk about Tatis, right? Okay. Yeah, just real quickly to answer your question, Ben. And I guess this is me putting it out there on record. I was a 100-win team. That's a winning record because no one's going 100 and 100. There's going to be a lot or ties in there. So I had a winning record 2 years ago. Shit kind of hit the fan last year in terms of literally every pitcher that should have taken a step forward didn't. Alek Manoah pitched himself out of the league. I continued to start him every week for the first 8 weeks, and that just tanked every hope I had. Look, I think personally, to directly answer your question, besides Logan Gilbert, because I'm just looking, because I'm pretty sure I have this right. Besides Logan Gilbert, every single player that you can see on this screen, if they're healthy, should have a better season than what they put together last year.
Probability tells us that will not happen.
I also like how you literally just said everyone who should have taken a step forward last year didn't, but this year everyone should take a step forward again.
This is the definition of delusion, and I think why people are accusing you of it. You're saying, I'm going to be a 100-win team, and every single player that did worse is going to do better. That's crazy. That doesn't happen. Everyone is going to have people who don't live up to standards. That's just very normal when it comes to fantasy sports.
So is everyone going to be worse, Ben?
No, you'll have some guys
bad.
Yeah, you'll have some guys who are better. You'll have some guys who are equally, and you'll have some guys who get worse. Everybody has
There's not a lot of guys here who can have a worse season than what they put together last year.
I don't know. I don't think you know the depths of shit that Brady Singer can probably get himself into.
He'll find that on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I'll say
Lars
on a
Nootbaar
positive
and Chris
note,
Bryant can't be less healthy than them.
speaking of them, and on a more positive note, sort of sensing a trend on your team between Soto and Julian and Nootbaar and Bryant, sort of like an OBP focus. Is that something that you're trying to build your team around as a baseline? Are there more? Are you think you're now satiated with those boons to the category? Or are you going to try to make more OBP centric moves? Just walk me through sort of the team plan and what offensive categories you think you're going for.
You nailed it. I just traded Kobe Mayo for Ha-Seong Kim. Gunnar Henderson's here. Wilson Contreras is here. These guys are OBP favored players for sure. I have some other guys like Michael Garcia and Tyler O'Neill, which very much are not, and I do try to keep a little balance, but I'm a high floor guy, and a high OBP is the best way to a high floor. That's why the bottom fell out, man, because I thought I had the floor, and there was no floor last year. It kind of shocked me a little bit. I still believe that there's a floor there, and I believe in the OBP. I believe in positive regression with runs and RBIs, which a lot of times we forget about because they're not the flashy stats like home runs and in stolen bases.
Mhm.
So yeah, I believe my floor is there. I think the ceiling just gets a little bit higher each year as my very, very, very young team just gets one more year of experience each year.
Drew, I hate to break it to you. We've done the age projections on these teams before. You don't have a very, very young team. You're kind of middle of the road. But don't say you're out here with a very, very young team.
Your
Chris
metrics are
Bryant brings the
incredibly
average age
flawed.
up like 6 years.
He's not. He's like 30 years old, like 31. He's the only one who's even on the wrong side of 30 on this screen.
Do you know, Drew?
Chapman.
I think whatever happened during COVID screwed with your mind in building these teams. Because you used to be the stolen base king. You were the OBP king. You were the floor king. You were someone who competed every single week. But you've kind of gone to the dark side a little bit. You've got some guys on here that kind of betray that formula. And I think the pitching side too, like you've almost gone to like my style where you're just going for scatter shots. Some of these guys are going to get better. I think you were a little delusional, as we've said, that they're all going to get better. Some of them will improve, and you've got some guys in the farm system who are going to come up and maybe fill those holes when you find guys who aren't good. But to say you're a 100-win team against Sean and Jack, who are your primary two opponents, and they clearly have better teams than you. And I'm not doing that to piss you off. I'm not doing that to offend you. I just think from an analytical standpoint, they are far away better than your team. Period.
I didn't try to build a team with a lack of speed. It's not my fault. Bo Bichette goes 22 of 22 on stolen bases, and his agent says he's going to steal 40, and he goes to 6. It's not my fault that Tyler O'Neill steals a bunch of bases in his best season of his career, which is looking like it's going to be the best season of his career, and then can't even put together like 1/5 of that total and following. So look, I didn't try to do this. Gunnar Henderson was billed as maybe a 25 stolen base threat. He's never getting there. He's never getting there. But that's what he was billed as. Like, I didn't try to do this. It just kind of happened.
Would you ever be open, because you're souring on Brady Singer a little bit? At what point do you sour on Bo Bichette and try and trade him?
Literally never.
Okay, but see, here's the problem. You said that about Brady Singer, literally never, and now look where we are.
There's a big ocean of difference
How
between Bo Bichette
never is a pretty
and
concrete
Brady
word.
Singer. I did drop Brady Singer in the past, but picked him back up pretty quickly. Look,
He was scared somebody was going to grab him.
I was. Look, Ben has said, I think, a lot of what he wanted to say, and
Yes.
used this platform to
I've got
really dig into me. I get it. Adam, let's hear from you.
I was going to be nice again. I was going to say, who are, you have an uphill battle to climb in your division. You're going to need reinforcements. Your farm has some fun names on it. Who are one or two of the guys that you're most looking forward to joining the team and trying to get you back up top of the division?
Now, I will say, because I know we want to say some nice things about Drew's team too. There are pieces in this equation that I do like. I like Brandon Pfaadt. I think he's had some trouble in the past, but I think he could have a good career going forward. Obviously, I like Logan Gilbert. I do think Hunter Brown is better than the year he had last year. I do believe that. I don't believe Nick Lodolo, Brady Singer, Chase Silseth, and Reed Detmers are that good, but I do believe that the three above are that good. Obviously, Juan Soto is a huge bright spot. It'd be hard not to be one of the top 3 players. People always forget how young Juan Soto is. I mean, you'll have that guy for the rest of his career. He's going to be nothing but a boon to the team. Gunnar Henderson was great last year. Walking machine, awesome OPS, fantastic. Chris Bryant, hopefully he can be healthy. He's going to be in Colorado now. He's going to be part of a movement that's going to have a lot more run generation around it. I think you could definitely see a bump in Chris Bryant's number if he can stay healthy. So I do think you have some bright spots on this team. I think for me, again, the real concern is that you're expecting everybody to get better, which is kind of the problem. But you do have pieces in here that I like. Edouard Julien, if he can go 2020 with a 370 OBP, that's unbelievable. That's great. Torkelson. Yeah, go ahead.
People keep saying that I need to trade Juan Soto and Bo Bichette.
You should never trade Juan Soto. You should trade Bo Bichette, but you should never trade Juan Soto.
They keep telling me I need to trade them to think about the future. as if a 26-year-old Bo Bichette and 25-year-old Juan Soto are not part of the future. Like, these guys are like just old prospects at this point. They're still basically prospects, it feels like. It's ridiculous, man, the hate I get. I get it. I think
you're
I
rostering
think I
people
can
like
definitely
Mike
win 100 games.
I know, but you're telling people Michael Garcia is going to come out here and smack 25 homers. The dude can't hit home runs.
I never think he's going to hit 25 homers. You're going to let Adam have Esteury Ruiz. Michael Garcia is basically – he's not Esteury Ruiz where he's going to steal 70 bases. He's there for the stolen bases, which you just said I need. Like, he's not going to start every day for me.
You do need the stolen bases. I will give you that much. You do need them.
Let's go.
Right,
let's go through these comments.
So we asked Drew a question about his prospects, and then Bean jumped in and then talked about every player on the screen for another 5 minutes, and we never got to Drew's prospects.
Well, what do we want to say about my prospects? I can tell you that Brooks Lee. I can tell you Brooks Lee and Colton Cowser are here. I traded away Kobe Mayo. Those two guys are the two guys left are not high ceiling guys. They're once again they fit the mold of a higher floor player. Very well could just both be utility guys in MLB. I'm hoping for a little bit more than from Brooks Lee. But look, there's not an impact prospect here that's going to change my fortunes in 2024. In future years, Jackson Jobe and Cade Horton come up, sure thing. I don't think they'll be up. 2024, I need my guys on this roster to show me who they really are. There will be changes this year. Brady Singer's almost certainly going to get the boot, just as one example, but this is the make it or break it year for so many guys that they're going into like year 3, year 4. You know, I'm a patient guy. I'm a patient owner that's been proven over and over again. I give guys a very long leash. That leash is running a little bit thin these days on a lot of these guys. The next wave is on its way. It's not going to be this year, though. Not too much to talk about the farm, Adam. That's why.
Okay, so Drew, I just want you to read over these comments for a little bit. They're all very similar. Everyone kind of feels the same way about your team.
The laughing stock of FTN, sure.
That one's harsh. That's hard.
Owner is 100% delusional about his team. It's my team now. It's mine. Constantly shits on other pitchers, yet rosters Shintaro Fujinami. He will be back. He'll be back. I'm going to roster him this season, I promise you. And Brady Singer.
Best of luck.
Better chance for Fujinami on my 2025 roster than Brady Singer, if I'm being honest. I would not be surprised by a 9th place finish. I like the farm, though, no complaints. Perpetual rebuild. It's trying to change that. Passion Kim was added. Kobe Mayo was shipped out. We're done with the rebuild. Less likely to win a championship in the next 20 years than Bean himself. I mean, if you believe either of us are going to win a championship in the next 20 years, you don't know ball. Still a couple years away. Really dig the young players, though. Farmers really hit and miss. Need some hits to compete. I mean, of course, I got like 73 prospects. There's going to be some hits. There's going to be some misses.
I am really curious to see how you handle the log jam, because I've had to deal with the log jam before. I'm curious to see how you navigate it.
Yeah, we'll see. You guys will see at home. The shittiest shit and clown emoji, one of my favorites. One of my all-time favorites.
Beautiful.
I cannot wait for this next one, guys.
All right, everyone, stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah, see, I don't have the hate for Jack that you two have, so I'm already ready for it to be unleashed.
It's not even the hate. It's just the Jack Sean dynamic is just so interesting. I regret spending so much time on my boring ass division when this is like easily the most fascinating division in the league.
I know we wanted to spend 20 minutes talking about you versus Perry, like it's gonna be anything but you winning.
You guys did it too. I mean, where do you want, Drew? Do you want to just do like a quick intro?
Let's talk about this team. Let's talk about this team, right? So, Jack. Let me take you back in time for a second.
Domination.
Jack at the very beginning, his first season, he kind of blew it. He had the lead, looked like he might get a wild card. He kind of blew it towards the end of the season. He self-admitted it was his first time doing fantasy baseball. It may have been his first time ever doing fantasy sports. I don't think he's the biggest football guy. He didn't really know what he was doing, but he went to the books and just did a bunch of research on how to fucking play this game. And he came out with a vengeance. 2020 takes home his first championship. Promised a belt to the league, and that was finally delivered on. but Jack delivered earlier than expected on what he was building there with his squad. And he's just been dominant ever since. You can see by the records here, improved in 21, improved in 22, improved in 23. I mean, there's a sizable gap even between Jack and the guy who rosters Mookie freaking Betts and Mike Trout. It's actually insane. One thing that I noted in the preview, and we'll certainly talk about this, I would love to get both of your guys' thoughts on it, but Jack has seemingly mastered the art of fantasy pitching. He never seems to put a wrong foot forward. This man just dominates ratios. He is what JD thinks he is. He's what JD tries to be. It works for JD, but he's in the much weaker conference. I think Jack does what JD does at a much higher level. And I can't say too much bad about what Jack does as an owner. I do have some concerns about his team. Flipping back to it, it's just a little bit on the older side. A lot of guys in their prime, but I would describe it as like twilight prime, not twilight of their career. Big difference. Don't come after me, Jack. Twilight of their primes. I'm talking the Bryce Harpers of the world. Matt Olson, for instance. Man, I hate that guy. A lot to like here, though, Adam. Let's lay it on Jack. Say all the nice things you want to say about your rival.
I mean, it's this team. This team's great. Obviously, it's great. And when you say, I think, and as we mentioned it earlier, that like we're probably too harsh on the team, on the older players, thinking they're gonna, fall apart earlier than they do, and we're probably too high on the young players who think they're going to ascend before they actually do. And this team is just like in its prime, and it's going to be in its prime for like another 2 to 3 years. I think if Jack didn't make another move, he'd still have a very good team for the next 3 years at least. I don't think there's a bunch of questions offensively. I think it's just very good at I think there's a clear top three in offense between me, Jack, and JD. I think we're all like fairly comparable. Well, I think JD's better than both of us, but I think Jack and I are very, very comparable offensively. And like you said, it's just going to come down to pitching. He's a guy I took a lot of inspiration from when I started doing my streaming last year in the playoffs. It's a strategy that, he's shown that can work. And you'll notice like going with my team going in, it's like there's spots for it again this year. So, he does what he does and he does it well, but he'll need to do it. There's not a ton of guys, not a ton of volume on the pitching staff this year. We'll be interested to see, where Blake Snell lands, if he lands, where he's going to find those extra innings, and if they're just going to be like waiver wire guys playing the Tigers, which like could work. It'll be fun to see.
Ben.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's certainly some guys on this team that are older, but not every team has to be solely composed of guys who are young. And that's definitely not just the winning formula. I don't think there's really anything to hate about this team. I do hate Gavin Lux. I regret ever purchasing him. I think he's not a very good baseball player, and I think that is a little bit of a hole on the team. If I had one complaint, you're not going to fill it with Carlos
bench.
Correa.
So, the shortstop position's a little sketch. Look, Correa is not the greatest.
His ankle could explode at any given moment. And again,
why is Correa in that shortstop position instead of Adames?
I'm a certified Adames hater. He doesn't even make my bench here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I was going to say that tells us something again about how you think. But we'll get back to this. But it's sort of the idea, and I'm sure once we cover Sean's team, it's going to again ask the question of how on earth do you think you're even competing with this team? I mean, you're not. This team it's a very solid team all around. I mean, even if he lost Blake Snell in terms of Blake Snell doesn't sign a contract for this year, it really wouldn't impact him that much. I truly believe that. Like, I think he would be able in the aggregate to go out and find 2 or 3 guys to get him the volume that Blake Snell would get you. So
talk about Moneyball.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like this team. Again, the farm is probably the worst in the league at this point. It's just something Jack clearly doesn't care about. and he feels like he can continue to stretch the legs on this. I mean, sure, you got Matt Olson, you got Jose Ramirez, you got Bryce Harper, you got some guys who are older, but on the flip side, you've also got some guys who are entering their prime, and you've also got some guys who probably haven't even hit their prime yet. You've got Cal Raleigh, you've got Nico Horner, you've got Luis Robert Jr., you've got Julio Rodriguez, you've got, Josh Lau. I know there are some people who are, maybe not Josh Lau fans, but I'm a Josh Lau fan. You got Henry Davis, really high on Henry Davis. And then on the pitching side of things, sure, you have some doubt. Maybe Tyler Glass now, he's obviously been a glass cannon. So we'll see if, he can sustain a full season's worth of pitching. But there's no reason for me to think this team isn't a 100-win team. And I think it comes down to how good is Sean going to be. That's going to answer more questions about what this team can do versus what Jack is doing. Is what does Sean do? And
Yeah, I mean,
really
this is like, just if you had to put in your head just like standard of like an FTN, like a good FTN team. Well, if it was a gold standard, then he'd have a gold belt. I have the gold belt. But like he is a good fantasy baseball team. It is not, I wouldn't say it's controversial in its like roster management in any way. He doesn't have any like wacky one category players that he tries to, like, everyone is just very good across the board, which makes sort of what Sean does, and I think is a cause, honestly, for Sean's volatility of like his like wacky, like, got to go outside the box, because you really do have to think outside the box to try to beat. I mean, this is the box. This is the model. So he's trying to zig where everyone's zagging, because like you can't zag any better than what Jack is doing here.
I think if there's one weakness I would say for Jack's team is that he is an injury or two away, and I don't mean this as in like he's only the team that's going to get injured. That's not my point. My point is, what depth does he have on the pitching side of things? I mean, he's going to be, if he has an injury, everyone does. Everyone's going to get a few pitchers who get injured throughout the year. When that happens, what's the contingency plan for that? I mean, sure, it may be to do streamers, but that to me has never been Jack's style.
I do think Jack has used a lot of streamers.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I do worry that the pitching's a little sus. Logan Webb didn't make it on this. Granted, his top four that are here, I don't think I think they're definitely arguable to be over Logan Webb, and I felt like I had to include two relief pitchers here. I think it's a core part of Jack's strategy. Let me talk real quick, though, about that sus pitching, because I think, I could see a universe in which Luis Castillo, Kevin Gossman, Blake Snell, and George Kirby all don't have as good of seasons as last year.
Hold on, can we pause for 1 second, Drew? Can we pause for 1 second? You come out and you say all my guys are going to be better, and then you come out and say all Jack's guys are going to be worse. It's just stupid.
No. Let me explain myself, and I'll be quick about it because I don't want to get bogged down in that. My players are young and pre-prime. Jack's players, besides Kirby, Blake Snell, Kevin Gossman, and Luis Castillo, have all had moments in their career where they have shown us good versions of themselves and not quite as good versions of what they currently are today. They are all prime or twilight prime guys, and very well we could just see some regression happen at any point, because it happens to everyone. There's a big difference between talking about young, on-the-rise players and guys, can they maintain their level of dominance in their primes that these guys have shown. And look, a lot of them are probably going to be as good. I'm actually a believer in Blake Snell, Kevin Gossman, and Luis Castillo. They're three of my favorite pitchers in baseball. I hate George Kirby. Don't get me started on him, but I love those other three guys. I'm just saying we could see some regression because these guys seem like they've been pitching out of their minds for a few years. And maybe that's how good they are, but I'm just putting it out there that if we're going to nitpick this team a little bit, you guys both said it. The pitching depth there is maybe not the best. It's a little bit lacking, and the top end talent is certainly there. No doubt about that. But to your point, Ben, one or two injuries or one or two of these guys get a little bit of regression, and it might be a more middle of the pack finish for Jack in the pitching categories versus the very, very top that he is accustomed to.
I will say this before we move on to Sean, that Jack is most definitely a top 2 team in that division. He will not finish below second place.
Well, yeah.
I don't think we're moving on to Sean quite yet. There's plenty more to say here for just a second. So stay with us, Jack. Jose Ramirez, Adam. Man, is this dude ever gonna his body shape never even lent itself to stolen base in the first place, and he's honestly the most shocking athlete in baseball, in my opinion, because of that exact reason. I'm just waiting for this guy to age out of the stolen bases, and then he's a B+ guy in terms of, look, he'll hit for power, and he's the only guy who's going to hit the runners in Cleveland, and as long as Cleveland's a winning baseball team, which they are, somebody's got to drive in those runs. It's going to be Jose, but come on, man. There's no way this dude can keep this up. How much longer has he got, Adam?
Fuck if I know. He's been doing it. The only evidence that we have of like what he's going to do in steals in the future is what he's been doing in steals, and he's been doing it. And then, like we talked about, like they made it easier to steal bags, so the guys that are not even necessarily like sprinters can steal. You get a good jump. You read the pitcher. It's a shorter, bigger bases. Like it's just, it lends more to like I'm gonna sound like such a douchebag, the intellectual side of stealing bases than the pure physical side. And once guys like Jose Ramirez sort of, once they start to decline in speed, they can still do it. I mean, Kyle Tucker has a 38th percentile sprint speed in baseball. If you want to steal, and you're good at stealing, like you can steal. I'm not gonna put a timer on Jose Ramirez's stolen base production. I would bet it's over 20 again, and I'd bet it's over 20 again the year after that, and eventually he'll retire, and he'll probably have 35 bags the year before he retires.
We talked about in regards to Max's team, looking at Seiya Suzuki, and we're like, Seiya, kind of a nice piece. He's more of a complimentary piece though than the star of the show. And I'm just thinking, when I see Brandon Nimmo out there in center, I'm like, Brandon Nimmo here looks a lot better than Seiya Suzuki looked on Max's squad, even though I would consider both of them like just about as complimentary as they get. And that just goes to show you the context of everything else happening around them.
He is the definition of a complementary piece being used in a complementary way. I mean, we saw it last year that Jack's team really struggles with OBP at times, and Brandon Nimmo, if there's one thing that he does not struggle with, it is OBP. So like this is sort of the blueprint of like you get a lot of stars, but like Nico Horner's sort of the same way, even though he was a very expensive complementary piece. Like you can get good players to fill in the holes, and they don't all need to be perfect studs, but like put them all together, and it's a nice little like it's tough to beat. It's a team that covers its own weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, future OBP NL champion Gavin Lux is here too. Are you guys Are you guys Cal Raleigh haters? Are you guys Cal Raleigh fans?
I am not a hater at all. I'm a fan. 100% I'm a fan. He's gonna hit 10 more home runs than Adley. Sure, Adley's on a better team.
Oh, well, he's gonna hit 35 homers this year.
How many did he hit last year? He hit like 36.
He hit
right?
30.
Hit 30.
So you're projecting 5 more homers this year than you did last year when you banking on another 30?
He's hitting more home runs than Adley Rushman. If you can do that, I'm a fan. Period.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the cost of about 90 points in OBP, but 5 homers is 5 homers.
That's the trade-off. Yeah.
Look, Matt Olson, personally, just I think he hates me. I don't know.
You were taking this so personally with Jack. You're not looking at his team objectively. No, You're just like, I don't like these guys. I'm going to shit on them.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I was stalling while I looked at Matt Olson's baseball reference page. Look, Matt Olson. It's
beautiful.
His OPS plus, going back to his first full season in the majors, 117, 139, 103, 153, 120, 162 career year. At the age of 29. We are still seeing a lot of players have that as their career years. I used to think it was 27. Moving that back a little bit, I think 28, 29 is actually more prime for these guys. Oh my God, what a terrific season by Matt Olson. We saw what Acuna did, and he deservedly won the MVP. And Matt Olson would have won the MVP in any other year. So I think if Matt Olson goes back to having a 130 OPS plus season, I think Jack's team is perfectly fine to cover for that. I wouldn't expect the same again. I think it would be crazy to do that. I just wanted to bring that up for the Matt Olson hater fan club out there, of which I am the leader. Because I owe
You're
to
the
all
sole
the fans.
member.
Yeah. Okay. Colson Montgomery coming up this year, and Jung Ho Lee joining the squad. Adam, what can we expect from Jung Ho Lee?
He's just sort of Brandon Nimmo, where like he's gonna probably hit around 300 with like a plus OBP, more gap to gap power. Not like a burner, but again, we'll see on these base paths if he can provide something more in that. But I really do think he's just like they're the same. It's either works. Maybe you can trade one and keep the other. I think they fill the same hole. Nice to sort of have backup plans there. I think he's a complimentary piece more than he's anything like league breaking.
Yeah, and then one guy we didn't talk about, a guy that I'm a big fan of, Brian Wu. Would not be surprised to see Brian Wu be the best pitcher in Seattle this year, even though Luis Castillo and George Kirby are there. Logan Gilbert too. I know that's an incredibly hot take. I don't know. Does Brian Wu still qualify as a MLB rookie? If he does, I'm putting him as my NL Rookie of the Year favorite, even ahead of Yamamoto. I think Wu is that good. He's disgusting. He's filthy. He's every adjective you want to use to describe good pitchers.
If they banned lefties from the league, then Brian Wu would win the Cy Young every year. Alas, I think they slugged like 700 against him last year. So we'll see how that goes.
I really want some of this stuff that Drew is on today, because my God, some of the things you're saying, man. I think you're gonna regret putting pen to paper on quite a few of these. I really do.
17-0 will do that to a person.
If loving Brian Wu is wrong, I don't want to be right.
There's nothing wrong with liking Brian Wu, but you can't say he's the fucking Rookie of the Year candidate. That's pretty bold. But anyway, I think we've spent like 25 minutes on Jack at this point. Let's move on.
Can we please go to Sean and then go to bed?
Okay.
Because we're at an hour and a half right now.
Yeah, it's fine. I think we didn't spend that long on Jack. We spent an hour on the first division. We're only 30 minutes into the second division. We spent
way too long on the first division, and that's like, why did we talk about Max's team for so long? Like, not even Max cares. Like,
that's probably true.
That's okay. Maybe we can split this up into two different segments. But last team of the night. This one's fun. I personally have we released everything yet? I don't think I've released a projected playoff matchup, but no. I will just go ahead and state it now. I have Sean as my favorite this year. I think Sean will win the championship. I think he'll win it over JD. I think he'll finish ahead of Jack. I love Sean's team. I do think I have Sean winning the division over Jack more so because I hate Jack's team for some of the reasons that we said prior. But Sean's team is exciting. Just look at that outfield. That is the best outfield in the league. No question.
Jazz?
Yeah, there's like a combined 85 games between Jazz and Mike Trout in that outfield.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm calling this the best. Listen, I'll say this about Sean's team. I think Sean is better than Jack this year, but Sean has been so wishy-washy with his team builds over the past two seasons. He could get halfway through, not be happy, and completely change his strategy. I can't accurately predict what Sean is going to do. He's changed so much so quickly. I'm surprised it's as good as it is. That lends a lot of credit to Sean and the moves he's made. But,
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like he changed completely. He's like, okay, I'm back on the starting pitcher train from relief pitchers, even though it worked for him. Now he's back on this. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, listen, like I said, I think he wins over Jack. I think Jack's second, Drew third. I think that number one and number two are pretty debatable. I think Drew in third. Drew, I'm not trying to shit on you just because you're on here. I'm really not trying to do that. But I do believe that you're the third place team in this division, and it's going to be down to what Jack and Sean do. If I had
What
to
does
pick
Sean do? What does Sean do, Adam? Tell us what is Sean's strength here? Because I know I have like my own opinion on what his strength is, and I said it. I think it's that outfield. But what do you got?
I mean, my thing with Sean and this whole thing, and if you all wanted to at some point refer back to the article I wrote before the Jack Sean matchup of the year that really wasn't the penultimate week last year, where I discussed the sort of new look Sean in relation to Jack. And then I think it's a very good team. It just doesn't match up very well with the exact teams that it needs to beat. I don't think this team beats Jack. I don't think this team beats me. And so I just sort of think that it doesn't get the job done. I think banking on consistent, healthy seasons from Mike Trout and Jazz Chisholm is both stupid and dumb. I just don't trust A, his pitching, and B, his management of his pitching. I mean, it's been shown time and time again that, like, not even just like trading all of his relievers for starters and then trading all of his starters for relievers. It's just like even like the in matchup stuff. Like he's just more prone to mistakes in that way, and I would love to see him, sort of shrug away those demons. He clearly has the guys for it now. You look for a hole, and it's there. He has all the pieces. It's just like, can he put them together? I just think that like this team is very much just like worse than my team and worse than Jack's team, and that's its biggest fault. It's a great team.
I'm with you that I have questions about Sean, the manager, more so than Sean, the owner. I also think, though, this is the most talented team in the league. So I from an owner perspective, unlike you, I do think Sean's team is just that good. Go ahead, Ben.
It's the
I
it's
don't
the
think
injuries.
it's not the most talented team in the league. It's not the most talented team in the league. It's a very good team. I think a team that has, in the right circumstances, a chance of winning its division. I'm not going to call him a champion. I think if you asked me any given day to pick a team to win it all, it would be John Duvall. That would be my pick any single day of the week. And I still hold JD as the gold standard for how to build a team. Again, we'll get to JD's team. We're not here to talk about him. But I think Sean is there in terms of he has the potential offensive output and he has the potential pitching output to be a playoff and a deep playoff contender. Everything's there for him to get it done. The real question is, will he? Will all those things go right? Will people stay healthy? And will he make the right moves and not panic when he needs to make those right moves and not panic? So there are questions to be answered, but he at least has the baseline ready to go, ready to start the season. That's how I would categorize Sean.
I mean, we talked about it like when he traded all of his relievers back for starters at the deadline. There were a lot of perplexed people around the league as it sort of seemed like he was going for like a playoff-centric strategy in the regular season and then sort of shifting to a regular season strategy in the playoffs. And while that might have doomed him then, I actually, it puts him in a fantastic position now. I would put that, I mean, his top four pitching with Wheeler, Pablo, Yamamoto, and Peralta, I think is the top four in the league. I mean, I think there are a couple teams that could like put up four guys next to it, but I would probably pick this one. And like, it's going to be injuries, but I can kind of catch myself and say that I've laughed and like yelled at you guys when you said like, oh, there's one injury away. I think it's a little bit different when Trout and Jazz have like three of those injuries a year. But like if everyone is healthy and everyone plays, if he can just be normal, I think that it's very promising.
If injuries didn't exist, Sean would have 6 guys here that would go in the top 12 of a 2024 redraft league. That would be Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Rafa Devers, Trey Turner, Jazz Chisholm. Again, if injuries didn't
Jazz
exist.
is not going that high. I don't know why everyone is so in love with Jazz Chisholm.
He has the talent to go 30 homers and 45 stolen bases. He's healthy. He's not going to be healthy, but if he is,
I like living in fantasy land too. It's fun.
Call it fantasy land, man. I know injury prone exists. I would describe myself as the most injury prone athlete to ever come out of Indian Hill. But it's also funny because I'm not an athlete and I just said I was one. Either way, look, I like this team a lot, and Adam said it. You said it. This team's going to be there in the playoffs. You love the pitching. Ben, you know this team's going to be there in the playoffs as well. There's little to no chance that I think this team misses the playoffs. I think it's too good, too deep. It all boils down to, I don't know if there's an MLB team equivalent of this, because this isn't a Dodgers situation where, that's more like a John Duong that is just the top of money, farm system, and talent, like just everything. This team is not like that, but this does feel like it's all about the playoffs. More so than any other team, I feel like this team will be defined by what it does in the playoffs, and a lot of that has to do with the manager. And we are just going to be fascinated to watch how he approaches the trade deadline and how he is planning to line up his staff for the playoffs in terms of the mix between starting pitchers and relievers. I think that's the end of the story for Sean, right?
So let's look at your projected finishes just as the last thing before we call it a night. So I want you to explain yourself here, Drew, because I really want to know. We're going to go back to you for a second here. I know we're adding 20 games to the schedule, so 100 wins may not be what 100 wins once was, but you're putting yourself right there with Jack in terms of your final record.
You have Jack going below 500.
Can you answer that?
Well, if Jack drops to under 500, those wins have got to be made up elsewhere.
They won't be made by you.
That's a good point.
I was a 100 win team 2 years ago before the addition of.
You can't let the past go. You keep saying 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was good. These guys were good. You're like some old dude who was like, I was great in high school.
Everyone has now tuned out of this podcast, and no one's even listening anymore. So I will just say that my team is largely the same. It depends on Bo Bichette and Juan Soto.
All right, we don't need to get back to this. I know. We're done. We're done. You're done talking.
Sean still needs another reliever.
Obviously, Adam, you've got Jack in first place. Sean in second. Drew, you've got Sean, Jack. I think both are perfectly acceptable. It's, again, really going to come down to manager difference, I think, on this one. But I would be in agreement that both of them are the top two teams. I think both of them beat out Max for a wild card spot. I think they're both playoff teams.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, the Sean's whole deal has been like trying to optimize for the regular season and optimize for the playoffs. So like you said, like it's going to be defined on like can he get it right this year? He, like I said just now, like he needs like 2 or 3 more relievers. I think Jack and I and JD have shown that like you need 4 or 5, and as of right now, he has like 1 or 2. Having all the starting pitching depth in the world is great until you get to the playoffs. So that'll be, he's sort of doing the thing. He's doing the regular season thing, and then we'll see if he does the playoff thing. Like just fucking be normal. Like your team is so good, just be normal.
Okay, well this was a lot of fun, and
I'm so tired.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're like 11:30 Eastern time. So. Well, thank you guys very much. We'll be back in a couple days, talk conference 2. Adam won't be here. JD will be here instead, but we thank Adam for his service. And I'll just put a plug for this. Adam, we need an employed series.
Well, we'll get on it. I'm very employed right now, so we'll see if I can find the time.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
See y'all.
Talk to y'all later.